All right, well, good afternoon officially, everybody, and welcome and almost evening. I'll open up with some music here for you, and then I'll kind of tell you what I'm going to do today, okay? So let me start. I already have it set up. You guys verified that the sound sounded pretty good, so hopefully it'll remain that way. All right, and let's start off with something like this. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It was very pretty. And I'm just using what's built in there. So, would you like to know what I did? Or do you already know that? I mean, you guys know this stuff already. All right. So, first thing what I'll tell you is the rhythm that I used was, you know the song, I hope. Okay. The Rose. The style that I used was called 70s chart ballad. All right. And how you get to it is pretty simple. So when you touch your style panel, you obviously see the easy listening is selected, and it's on the page 2 down there. You see that? And then you just go to 70s chart ballad. Okay. And then if you push the home button, bring you back to home screen just so you could have that pretty screen there. And then for the settings that I used, I only really technically used three setups technically. So I started with the one-touch setting number 1. Which turns on a kind of like an electric piano. Okay, and then when I started the song, I used main variation A. and I used intro 2. So earlier before I started, if you noticed before I hit record here, I listened to both intro 2 and 3 to decide which one I wanted. And I went with number 2, which I thought was pretty. The one other little thing that I did, and you'd have to kind of remember this, if you don't have a sustain pedal, I know we've talked about this feature, but if you don't have a sustain pedal, you have to remember, if you activate the sustain button over here, if you go to another preset, it's going to stay on, so just remember to turn it off if you don't want to keep it on. But I turned on the sustain because when I was playing, I don't have a sustain pedal. It gives me a little sustain. And then as I was playing the song, I went eventually to main variation. Here's the beginning. It's a beautiful introduction there. That's the intro 2. And then I had, so that way when you're playing, it has a little sustain. However, what happened is I forgot I had on the sustain, and then I went into the second preset, which I really love, being a guitar player. It gives me that real nice nylon string guitar. If you leave the guitar on, it's not bad, but I kind of like it off, the sustain off, so you just have to remember to do that. So I did a little bit of that. And then you might have noticed I went into the screen while I was playing. And so let me show you on the screen. When I'm on one touch setting number 2, you'll notice on the screen the right is the one that's on. And there's 2 other sounds that's in there, a flute and a 70s suitcase tremolo. What does that mean? No, you can tell by the picture. A lot of times the pictures give it away. So it says 70s suitcase tremolo. So basically, if I turn that on, it's like another electric piano. But I didn't want to use that at this part of the song. So what I did is I had that on, and then you might have heard me switch to the flute. All right? And just as a reminder, I'm going to switch cameras back and forth for a minute. So over to the right side here, those 3 sounds that you just heard coincide with this, and they're just all simply labeled. It says right 1, right 2, right 3, upper. Plain and simple. Okay? Don't let it trick you. And whatever button is lit is what's on that you're going to see in the screen right now, and you're going to see it change here. So you'll see all 3 buttons are lit, kind of. They're orange. Okay, I'm going to turn 2 and 3 off and leave number 1 on. I'm going to go back to the screen here, and if you look at the screen, as I turn on and off the buttons on the panel, you'll see that they light up there. So you'll always know what's on depending on what you've selected, okay, on the panel towards the right. So I started, when I went to that second part of the song, and I had, oops, okay, and then when I switched to, I turned that off and I put right 2 on, you heard, all right, but what I did is, while I was playing, I reached up and I touched the screen. Now, keep in mind, you see it says 70 suitcase tremolo? You see that it's not lit. It's there. It's on standby. It's just waiting for me. So I can, if you can do it while you're playing, it kind of helps, but I touch it. And what I wanted was some strings. So I very easily went over to the strings button. And then on page 1, you'll see it says strings, Keno strings low. See that? Now if I'm going to leave it there now. Now I'm going to come back to the home button. And you'll see on the screen there, it says Keno strings low. But you'll see it's still not lit. It means it's not in use yet. So I kind of did it on the fly as I went. So that way when I got to the part where I wanted the strings, all I had to do is on the right panel over here, and then I touched number 3, and then you got. Okay? And that's how I got the settings for the song when I was playing it. Now, last week, we spent a little bit more time on saving presets. Now, when I was playing, I kind of knew in advance that when I got to a certain part, I was going to touch the screen and go to the symphonic, those low strings. If you're not one that wants to kind of search for the sounds as you go, then I would encourage you to go back to last week's class and watch that class. Because I spent a little bit of extra time on saving presets, renaming them, and so forth. The Reader's Digest version, what I should say is the Reader's Digest version or the Reader's Digest version, is if you have a setup that you really like and you want to save them here, okay? So if I wanted to very quickly do some of those, it's very easy to do. So I'll start with the first one here with the intro. And I go, okay, you know, I like that. All you have to do is push memory. And when you do that, because I got a few other things I want to talk about, so I'll give you the abbreviated version and encourage you to go back and watch last week's class because I spent a lot of detailed time. This is going to show up, and it's basically asking you, when you save this, what do you want to save? And if you see all those check marks, I just go ahead and leave them on, unless you're getting specifically into assignable cuts, buttons too. I mean, I guess you could save that too if you want. Okay? You can save the song if you're recording a song using the presets. Whatever you save there. And then you press a number. So all you have to do is press memory. All you have to do is press memory. That screen will come up. It'll probably have a lot of checks on yours. And then you push the number that you want to save it in. Okay? And then you make the change, make whatever change before you play the song. So I have that already. Let's see here. All right, and so maybe, and then as I play, I want this. I go, okay, I like that. Memory 2. Boom, it's set. And then maybe on the next setup, I want the flute. Okay. Okay, I like that too. Maybe I'll do main variation 3. All right. I'm on number 3. All right. And then maybe I want those strings in there. This is the part where it really comes in handy so that when you go back, and I'll leave that there, turn that there. Okay, that's great. I'll leave that there. Maybe I'll push main variation D, memorize number 4, or memory number 4, and then, you know, you can leave it like that. All right. Now, the next step was saving the presets. So to do that, to save them, what your work here, you press the registration minus and the plus, and when you press those two buttons together, you're going to get the screen, this here, and I'm on some kind of setting here apparently that I'm going to address in a little bit, okay? So I want to save this onto the GENOS 2. Okay? And to do that, you want to press user. You'll see there's USB 1. You can save it on your USB if you like. I would say put it on the GENOS 2 first. And you can go back and save it. And I press user. Now, I'm going to be a little fast on this because I went over this last week. So you'll see that I'm on kind of the home page of the user screen. And what do I have here? I have a folder. Where do I want to save my presets? Robert, under maybe Robert. You'll see Barco's class presets. There's a playlist for GENOS 2. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply at this point press File, and then I'm going to press the Save option. And then it's saying, where do you want to save it? So I want, in this case, I want to save it under my name. So I'm going to touch Robert. And then I have a GENOS 1 and a GENOS 2. So I'm going to go to my GENOS 2, touch that. And then this is where I want to save those presets. Okay, so then I touch at the right top there, save here. Now it defaults to my girl because I had some presets in there that said that. So all I have to do is press delete and then retitle it The Rose. Okay, and you'll see the little space bar. If you need an uppercase, press the little arrow there, R, press it again in the lowercase. And then when you're done, press OK. Now let's see what happens. And there it is. Okay? Now, last week, I spent a little bit more time on saving presets here. I spent time on how to rename each individual preset. You know, I might have put guitar here and a piano there and so forth. I spent a little bit more time and detail on that, on renaming it. We spent a little time on taking something. Some of you have USBs like from Marco, what have you. And then we took some time on taking it from there, copying it onto the GENOS. So there's that. We did a lot of nitty-gritty on that. And I'm not going to do that today because we have a class on that. And it's posted on YouTube and Patreon, so you can go back and watch that. Okay? But I wanted to give you a little quick setup idea and some of the things that I use feature-wise. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about basics, getting back to some basics today. Okay? My goal when I do a class like this, I've been noticing over time, as I meet people, I get emails, I get phone calls. I'll have some people that have had their GENOS 2 for 6 months or longer. I've had some people I've met that had GENOS 1, then the GENOS 2. So a lot of the operation is very familiar. And then there's people that I'm still waiting for mine. Hope I get it soon, which I'll be letting people know about that. I've got some information on that, but I won't do it on the class. And so they don't even have one yet, or they just purchased one, and so they don't know. So I want to try to make it simple, and then hopefully something that you can get out of the class if you've had one for a while and you kind of know you're a little bit more comfortable navigating around. So for starters, hopefully that setup with the rows is kind of a good starting point. If worst case scenario, if you put on that style 70s chart ballot and you use your one-touch setting, and you kind of go through, that's all I really did, is I just went through the one-touch settings. And as I was playing, I went from main variation A, B, C, and D, and I just picked what I liked, what my ears said I liked. Okay? That's a great setup. Now, let's go back to very basic stuff here. Speaking on picking a rhythm, you have in this instrument, whether you have the Fletcher edition or the non-Fletcher edition, tons of rhythm styles in this product. And hopefully it's going to take you a very long time to discover all those styles, which is a good thing. Okay? That means you're not going to be bored for a while. But the first thing that I always encourage, and heck, I even did it this morning on my MK5000 class, I always say explore your rhythm styles and explore the intros and endings and explore the way the backgrounds with the main variations sound like when you're using them. Now, I wouldn't say explore it to the point where you spend an entire day just picking a rhythm and listening to the intro, because that can get over after a while. You want to play. But I want to reference a few very basic, simple things. So if you were on this class and you had just gotten yours and you've never touched a GENOS, what should you do? Well, there's two things that we constantly refer to, and that is picking a style, using your one-touch settings. Okay? What is a one-touch setting? Well, a lot of people that have the Lowry product, one-touch setting is like rhythm preset or style setup, or you've had a Lowry product. A lot of you have the SDM K5000. That's like auto setup. If you had the Roland, it was like a one-touch setting. Techniques actually once upon a time had that feature as well. The beauty is the one-touch settings change the sound choices that you have for the style that you choose. And then over here, if you can imagine this, I don't want to get moving the camera close. Over here you have your intros and your main variations, and then right above it, I want to remind these three buttons here, especially two of them. Okay? So you have, let me start with picking another rhythm style. So let's say I want to pick a style, and I'm going to play some music for you along the way and tell you what I'm doing along the way. So let's say I want to play a song like Anytime, okay? And I want to use a country style. All right, well, that's easy. I'm going to push the country button, okay? And I'm going to look through there, and I'm going to find something that I think, oh, there's one. I'm curious. Californian country. You see it there? I'm going to touch it. All right. Now, some of you may ask, well, what made you pick that one? Well, I looked at California country, and right next to it, there's a tempo. When I play the song Anytime, sometimes it's around that tempo. Okay? So now I have the style selected that I want. My next thing that I'm going to do is real simple. The first thing that I always do is I always go and touch one-touch setting 1. I don't know why. You can do any of them. I always start with number 1. Okay? And then I go back to the home screen. So I have my home screen so I see what sounds are in there. The next thing I do is then I come over here and I decide I have main variation A, B, C, and D. Main variation is it's referencing the background. A is very simple background. B, the background becomes a little bit more fancy, just a little bit. C gets a little fancier, and then D gets, you got a lot of musicians playing, okay? That's just a quick reference. And so what I did with the rows is I then chose an intro, and I just listened to them. And then sometimes I'll think, okay, this is the one I'm going to go with. So I'm going to start with intro 1 and just play the chord, all right? And I'm going to listen to it. Now, intro 1 is short, 2 is a little longer, and 3 is even longer than that. Some of the intros are, some of you might be familiar with the term signature style, which is a style that's made for a song. Some of the intros have that in there. Sometimes they exist on a minor chord. Sometimes they exist on a major chord. Sometimes they exist on intro 3, but not intro 2. Okay? So the fun of it is just pick one and play it. So I'm going to start with an intro 1 with a simple C chord. That was it. That's all that intro was. That was pretty quick. Let me put on number 2. Now, by the way, if you're doing this, when you touch one-touch setting and you decide I'm going to pick an intro and I'm going to listen to it, this is intro 2. Kind of like that, a little longer than I expected. All right, now I'm going to stop it. Now I want to listen to number 3. Okay, now watch what happens. Okay. Just remember, if you're doing this just to kind of see what you have, there's a button here next to the start stop. It's called sync start. Just press sync start, and it means what it says. It'll start. It syncs to when you press the chord. So now I'm going to try it with number 3. I love it. Okay, now believe it or not, as much as I love it, afterwards I'm going to play the song now. I'm going to try number 2. I like number 2 for this song. Okay, so I'm going to push number 2. But wait, I got to come back and remember to push the sync start. Okay, now there's a couple things you can do. If you go back and you press one touch setting again, here's sync start is off. If you touch one touch setting again, it'll automatically trigger the sync start again. Okay? So why am I telling you about this? Because I encourage students all the time, explore the rhythm styles. We say it all the time. Just put on a rhythm, listen to the intros. I have some songs that I've put together that I've played over the years, and that's exactly what I did. I just pick a rhythm and I go, I'm wondering what this one is. And then I do what I'm saying right now. I pick on what setting 1, it sets it up real quickly, and I start with the intros, and then then I hit main variation A. The main variations, by the way, are only noticeable once the introduction is over. So if you push main variation A, B, C, or D, and you use intro 2, 1, 2, 3, it won't matter. So for example, here, main variation A is like this. Main variation B is like this. Fancier. Number C. Okay, you see it kind of changing a little bit? Yeehaw! Oh, sorry. It got even a little fancier, all right? So back to 1, main variation A. Let's listen to it. Pretty simple, nothing too fancy. But when I put on intro 3, which is the fancy introduction, it's not going to matter what main variation is on. Does that make sense? I hope. Okay. So with that said, I had I think it was a comment on YouTube when I posted, I think one of the classes, Marco, and it was a comment or a question. The person asked, I noticed that you use number 2 or 3 a lot, or number 2 a lot in the introductions. Well, sometimes when we're playing, we don't want a real simple, short intro, which is what number 1 does. Every now and then I do. So I tend to go to number 2 or 3 sometimes as well. But 2 is a very common one because it's sometimes not as super long, and it's still fancy enough for me to go, yeah, I kind of like that. So now I've got the rhythm that I selected. I kind of listened through it a little bit. I'm going to do intro 2. And this time, instead of main variation A, I'm going to put main variation B. And I'm going to leave it there. And then I'll start playing. What song was I going to play? Oh, Anytime. I forgot what song I was going to try with that. Here we go. Oh, wait. Intro 2. Here we go. If you want to take it a little step further, we've referenced this many times, but you have, and unfortunately I don't have it close enough, but above your 1, 2, and 3, you have a button that's called OTS Link and Autofill. And I'm going to do it. I need to prepare you. There's sequences in this that might create some motion and flashes. And oh, no flashes, just motion. Okay, so I'm going to walk over here. I know a lot of you, I can tell you're in front of your instrument. Okay, you'll see there it says OTS Link and Autofill in. Okay, pretty simple. So when I reference those two buttons, now you know what I'm talking about. Okay? All right. Let's see if I can get this back on the right angle. By the way, when I get to the playlist, I got a little trick that I've discovered. It's been there all along, but some of you probably discovered it already, but okay. So autofill is very simple. It basically means, let me put on that rhythm. Actually, let me pick another rhythm here. Let me play a song like, I always play Besame Mucho, I guess. I can do that one. So I'll do a Latin. Actually, let me put this screen so you know what I'm doing. I'm going to find, and when you're thinking of a song like Besame Mucho, it's kind of like pick one. They're all going to work if you're in the Latin category. So I'm going to go to the Latin category, and I'm probably going to just pick something that I've done before. Let's see, there's a pop cha-cha. Now I'm going to touch the one-touch setting 1, and just very quickly listen to it. I'm just going to put on intro 2. Let me just listen to it. Ooh, that's nice. Let's see, what else we got here? Spanish rumba. Let's see what that sounds like. I'm going to touch one-touch setting 1 again to trigger it. Intro 2 again. Oh, 2 totally different flavors, right? Okay, so who's that guy talking back there? All right, so I think I'm going to settle this time with pop cha-cha. Okay? So I've got pop cha-cha on. I'm going to touch one-touch setting 1. And as I play along, I'm going to start off with main variation A, and I'm going to manually push it. All right, so just listen. Okay. Now I'm going to push main variation B. Now, I don't know if you could hear it, but there's a quick, subtle little one measure fill in there. Let me go back to A. Oops. B. What happens when I do C. And then D. Okay. It does a quick little fill in there. And all that means is that when you're going from the main variations, it does a nice little subtle fill as you go to the next background change, okay? If you turn off the autofill, goes to the next part of the background, whereas before, if I did it, it kind of gave me at least one measure of a kind of little fill that goes into the next part. All right? So I tend to leave the autofill on all the time, but this one-touch setting link, OTS link, basically ties in your main variations to your one-touch settings. So as you know, the one-touch settings, you have 4 different sounds in there. And in this case, let me just go through them before I play the song. Piano. That's probably going to have a harmony, I can see. All right, so the question you have to ask yourself before you do this is, are you okay with those 4 settings to play whatever song you're going to play? Sometimes, like when I did The Rose, I used the 70s chart ballad, did I say? When I was experimenting with it, I liked number 1, I liked the number 2, and I didn't use it, but earlier on I used number 4 and I liked it. I didn't like number 3 for the song I was playing. Okay? So the reason why it had a big brass sound for that. And I didn't want to use that. So one-touch setting link was not going to work for me in that case. Okay? In this case, the one-touch setting, I could live with these sounds for the song. So when I put on the one-touch setting link, what happens is as I'm playing, if I go from main variation A to B, what will happen is think of A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. They tie in with each other. So if you push A, 1 will come on. If I push B, 2 will come on automatically. C, 3 will come on automatically. And 4, D, 4 will come on automatically. All right? Now, let me take that a step further. So, if I'm playing along, and I just press A, B, C, D and go in order, let me do the intro 1 this time. Main variation B. Quick little fill, and then it'll change the sound. That's pretty plain and simple. If I have that on and I touch it, now I don't have to go A, B, C, D either. I can go, I gotta be careful how I say that, A, B, C, D, E either. No, I don't have to do A, B, C, D in that order. I could start with A, jump to C, go to D, I can bounce around if I have that on every time I push those variations. And the beauty of having it over here is if you're playing your chords over here, it's a little easier to get to, okay? And I think some of you have switches you could do that with as well. We won't go into that. Now here's the other little tip, if you will. So the minute, if you keep the one-touch setting link, the OTS link on, and you go from A, B, C, D, it does exactly that. However, let's say I want to do something like this. I'll start with A. Now number 2 had a piano sound. Okay? I want to switch to number 2, but I don't want my background to change. You can do that very simply. You can leave it on the A and then switch to number 2, or any of the presets. This will stay. So if you go changing these will stay if you have the one-touch setting link on. If I go to, the minute I press A, B, C, or D though, like right now I have main variation A, one-touch setting 2 on, because I picked that sound. But now I'm going to push D, and now it switches to number 4, because I still have it on. Okay? So it comes in handy depending on your use. If you think you're one of those that, while I'm playing, I like to use these, and I want to change this around on my own. I want them 2 separate. Then just make sure your one-touch setting link is off. Okay? Steve, did you have your hand raised earlier? emoji hand?
No, some reason it got up there, and I didn't realize it was up, so I took it down.
Oh, okay. Um, okay, so again, as a basic, like, hey, I just got this thing. I want to make sure, just open it up, turn it on, and then if you want just real basic stuff, and I did this in a class this morning on a different product, and I said the same thing. If nothing else, just get comfortable listening to the styles you have. Just pick a category, and then just ask yourself, well, let's see, what style of music might be in the mood for. Let's say I want to do, let's see, oldies, okay? And let's see, oh wow, a lot of 60s in there, a lot of good 60s. Let me see here. Let me just look at some of them in there and see if there's something that strikes me. Let me go back to the beginning. I forgot. Let me read them all. 60s. Pop ballad looks good. Let's see. I'm just going to scroll through. 60s. Britpop. And then I'm looking at the tempos too. I don't know what this light ballad is. I'm just going to touch it. And I'm going to put one touch setting on, and I'm going to hit intro 2 in this case. If you're doing this, where you're checking out what you got, I always say kind of start off with the intro 2s or 3 because they're going to be a little bit more elaborate. They're going to be a little, they might strike a song in your head. And I'm just going to hit a C chord and see what happens. Using light ballad. I forgot that I was doing this. I could keep going. 60s big hit. What is that? 60s big hit. Let me put on an intro. I'm just doing one touch setting 1 for starters. Let's see what happens. All right, let's see what happens. Oh. You know what? That makes me want to play. Let's see if I could do this without the music. Okay, here we go. There we go. I like that. So, yes. So if you 60s big hit, that's great for Hey Jude, by the way. The other one, it kind of reminded me of something you can do for Let It Be. If I can pull it off. Here we go. Yeah, okay. I don't play this song very often, so I've been... sound like Let It Be, but it works, well, in my opinion, it works very nicely. Oh, I put on the intro, not the ending. Here we go. So exploring the rhythms, and again, so far everything that I've done today is I picked a rhythm that intrigued me or something that I thought would work with a song. I just picked one touch setting one, and then I started off with my intro 2 or 3, and then I just listened to it. And then sometimes I just listen to it and then listen to the ending, and I'll go and try another one. And sometimes I'll go, oh, let me try a song. Let's try this song with it. So far, both of those worked out nicely today. Okay? So just basic stuff. If you're just getting it, put on a rhythm, put your one-touch setting, hit an intro, and listen to it. Okay? Make some notations to self. Okay? Now, I came up with a bunch of songs that I wanted to play. And these were songs that I typically play in most cases, and then there's a few that I'll share a few before we're done with it. Now let me talk a little bit about playlists for those of you who have the playlists, okay? Some of you have this, some of you don't. I'm going to post it up on our Patreon site again. I'm going to actually post a few things there, and you're going to see. You're going to have 3 different options. Let's see if I pull up the right one here. Okay, so you see this list? I think I've given this out a few times. If you don't have it, you'll be able to grab it. But here's a list of songs, not all, but most of these are songs that I've played at one time or another. And some that I sort of used to play, that I wanted to play again. And this list is just a quick little, it was really for me. So if I sat in front of a group of people, I'd have songs to play. And what I didn't want to do is hunt and peck for some setups while people were watching me. So I just very quickly, so now here's how this list works if you use this and put this to use for yourself. The top part are songs that I set up the GENOS using the playlist option, okay? The bottom part were songs that I set up by doing what we've been doing so far. I searched a rhythm, and I said, let me try this for the song, and if I liked it, I wrote it down, okay? And so what this does, what this tells you, let me start here and I go back up here. What this tells you is this is a song that I would play, and I might show a few before we leave today so you hear it. Jazz is the button. The first word is the button. The P just tells you what page it's on, so it's page 1. And then you'll find that style. Bold is the actual name of the rhythm. Okay? So when I was searching for Besa Mucho, apparently I searched for pop cha-cha or Spanish rumba at one time. Okay, anytime there's the California country, hey good looking, and so forth. Now the top part are songs that I play. And what's in bold is the name of the playlist. Okay? So if you get this sheet and you say, I want to try, I like Don't Be Cruel, or I like, actually Let It Be is part of the oldies playlist, but I think it gives me a different rhythm than I used here. So, all right. So for example, let's say I want to take My Girl. Okay, it's in the R&B. All right. So what I'm going to do is over to your right side, you have a playlist button. Right? Y'all have one of those? If you don't have one, call me right away. I'll sell you one. Comes free GENOS comes with it. It's an expensive button. Just kidding. All right. So I'm going to push the playlist button. But there's something that I discovered today that I didn't realize all along, and maybe you've discovered it. But right now I'm actually on the R&B playlist. All right. But let me go back to the beginning of the playlist. So if you've used this before, there's a couple things you can do. When you touch up at the very top, in this case it says Genos 2 playlist R&B. I'm going to touch it. And when you touch it, you'll see it brings me back to here. You have the user, and you have a little arrow down on the bottom right corner. You see that down there? It says 1/1. I don't know if you can see that, but towards the bottom right of the screen, there's an arrow. You could either touch that and go back up to the previous page and see it, or for some reason, I tend to just push the user button. I don't know why. You could whatever works best for you. When I touch user, it brings me back to the main playlist button. So I'm creating an extra step by doing this. And when I touch it, then it brings up all of the playlist categories. All right? Now, so let me go to R&B. That's page 2. I'm going to touch R&B. Okay? You got to make sure that's highlighted. If it's not highlighted, let me go to another one and show you. So if I go back to this and I go back to R&B, now watch. This is very important. If it's not highlighted, you're not going to be able to access the list. So I'm going to touch it and highlight it. And then when I do that, you then come back over here and you press your playlist button. And when you do that, when you press it, it'll give you all of the song titles. I call them song setups because that's what they're doing, is they're setting up the Genos. All the song titles affiliated with R&B. Now, I've had some people ask on this. I'm going to go back to here. You'll see right here on this screen right there. You see at the top where it says search? That option works great in a lot of parts of the keyboard. But, you know, if I put search and I press the screen in there and I type in my, MY, and then I'll just leave it like that. Watch what happens. You'll see nothing came up on the screen. So that search doesn't allow me to find any of those. However, there is a little workaround that I found. Hopefully it works. I just did it by accident today. So now let's cancel out of that. Let's go back to the R&B. So it's highlighted. I'm going to press the button on the panel. Now I'm back in my list. Do you see up on the top there? You see it says playlist. Then it says Genos 2 playlist R&B. Then right next to it, it says save, which can come in handy at some point, but we're not going to do that today. And then you have new and menu and what have you. Now you see there's one that says filter. You all see that there? A thumbs up. A nod head. Okay. I'm going to touch filter, and let's see if this works for me. And I'm going to type in the word my. And then I'm going to press OK. And look what happened. It looks like it gives me all the song titles in that have the word my in it. So technically, it's a way of searching for a song title to see if you have it. Okay? And you'll see there's My Girl right there, number 6 on the list. And I'll touch it. Okay? And when you select it, what it does is it sets up, and I like to remind people of this, when you assign a playlist song, a song setup, it programs the presets 1 through 6 here, or 7 or 8, depending on the song. The playlist I have found always triggers number 1 for you automatically. So when you select a song setup or a playlist song, and you highlight it, it automatically activates number 1 for you, and it always has an introduction. Here's what I found in all of the playlists that I've used, all the song titles. That doesn't mean it's going to be for every one of them. Here's what I've noticed. Number 1 and 2 are the exact same setup. Okay? The difference is number 1 has the introduction built into it. So if I start playing, if I press a chord, I'm going to hear an introduction. Perfect for that song. Okay? But sometimes when I play that song, you're all familiar with the song My Girl, right? If you listen to the song, actually, they don't have an introduction in it. It starts off by Smokey singing, I've got, and then they come in, the band comes in. So if I use that song setup, sometimes I may use the introduction, and sometimes I could just turn it off, I guess. Or sometimes I'll just go to number 2, okay, and then just start playing. You can hold that note, be dramatic about it. And then as you're playing, use the other preset. Anyway, all right. Oh, number 5. Here's number 5. Now listen to number 6. What I've also discovered is that 5, well, let me back up. I want to say this correctly. The last 2 presets may not be 5 and 6, it may be 6 and 7, maybe 7 and 8, are the same sound, but when you get to the very last one, it triggers the ending for you. Okay? So 1 and 2 I've found. Now you may find one that it doesn't do that, but I haven't run into one yet. So you can let me know. So 1 and 2 is the exact same setup, just 1 triggers the intro. The last 2 are usually the same setup, but the last one will automatically trigger the ending. And that kind of makes it a little convenient just from the standpoint if your hands are here, you reach up and touch it instead of having to reach over. Now, did you notice when I was playing, there was one of the presets I played, then I said, nah, I don't like that. And I went to another one. That's going to happen. But as a reminder, so if you have in this case, I have the My Girl on there, okay? And what I'm going to do is exit the screen. Actually, I'm just curious of something. Okay, no, that's not what I wanted. All right, I'm going to exit the screen, press the home button, okay? And what I'm going to do is press the registration. Hold on one second, I'm just curious about something. Okay, all right, so what I'm going to do is, before I stay on this screen, so I'm going to push the plus and the minus, registration bank, 2 buttons together once. When you do it, just press the 2. Don't press and hold it and stay there. Just press the 2 buttons, and when you get it, you'll get your, your whatever screen that you're on. If you reach up above where it says menu, press menu, and I know we've talked about this a few times. You put on registration bank info, and at least you have an idea what sounds you're going to get before you press the preset. So if I was smart, I could have done this beforehand, push my number 1, and you can see it says harmonica. And this is actually very clever the way this is done, because this is just kind of telling you what it was intended for. The intro, you can see it says ending. Play the verse, play the verse. This is great if you play the chorus. The way the playlist, I don't know if they're all like this, but I just discovered this today, so I might poke around a little bit and see. And it kind of gives you an idea of where to play the setups if you're playing the song that you're using, which is pretty cool. So it's saying, hey, use number 1 is the intro. I told you they're the same, you see. And when you play the verse, you can do verse 2, maybe the chorus and the chorus. So you basically got 2 great setups for the chorus and so forth. Now, you don't have to do this. You can do whatever you want, okay? But if you want to use their suggestion, you do that. And over here, this is just telling you what sounds is programmed in your right and your left-hand sounds, okay? Now you can see that these 3 are lit. These 3 are lit. Those 3 are lit. Now look at number 3. I can't reach that high. All right. See number 3? It says 60s vintage clean, 70s suitcase tremolo. Now we know what that is. That's that like electric piano sound. And a synth lead apparently. Now you'll see they're kind of faded out, shaded out. So if I push number 3, I'm going to get, I know that's a guitar sound, but I also know that those 2 sounds are there in case I decide to use it. So if it was me playing this song, I can make a decision. Do I want to use their idea? Or maybe when I'm playing, I'm not in the mood for number 4, which was a real strong brass sound, you know? So it comes in handy, and I'll leave it there. And let's put let me find a different song setup here. How about, I'm going to go back to, oh, by the way, if you're using this filter, there is one little caveat to this. Now you'll notice I'm going to try to hit the playlist. I'm touching it, it's not doing anything. You see that? If you want to get out of that search menu, because right now you're in the filter to use to find the word. All right, so what I'm going to do is touch filter, and then I delete it, and then press OK, and then it goes back. Now it allows me to go find something else. So how about something like superstitious? Now that's an S. Now I'm just going to use the page down instead of the filter. Okay, the little arrow goes up 1 page at a time. If you use the one with the line on it, it brings you to the top or brings you to the bottom. I'm going to the bottom, and I'm just going to find superstitious. And I'm going to touch it. All right. Now, if I want to see what's there, I'm going to press the registration minus and plus again. Hit the menu button. Registration info, and so now that's the setups. And I can play them in any order I want, but I'll just kind of see what it get. I'll just kind of run through some of those. I'm on one, now watch, I'm going to go to number two, same thing. Number three says White Bar JS. I have a feeling that's an organ sound. Number four. Tenor sax, section horn, the combination. And then number six. So comes in handy when you need it. When you're playing, you may find yourself, you may go through the presets first and listen to them first. Do it however you like. So that's, it's pretty cool stuff that you can do with that. Now, I know in the past we've offered these lists. If you have not received them, you need them, I'm going to post them again on our Patreon. You can email me direct. I think they're a fairly large file. But we have these lists that I'm referring to in 3 different formats. The first format has been the most popular. See if I get it right. Nope, I picked the wrong one. Hold on. That was my little... Let's see what this says here by style. By song order. Song order. Okay, here we go. All right. So when you see that there, if you're looking what I'm seeing, you'll see it says I can't get no satisfaction. You see that, Wayne? Okay. All right. So these are the list of all the song titles that are in there, and it tells you the rhythm style. Check this, is pretty cool. I didn't put this together, by the way. One of the students put it together, and then they reformatted it in 3 different ways. So this is the song title. This tells you on the far right what category to go to when you're searching for it, if you're looking for it in the playlist. And again, if you're using the playlist, it's going to program your presets from 1 through 10 in the center of the instrument. Okay? If you decide I don't want to use the playlist presets, but I do want the rhythm, well then you can search for the rhythm. As you can see right here, it tells you what rhythm it's using to do it. Okay? So these are the song titles. And if you have a PDF of this, I encourage you to save it as a PDF because you can always do a search in your PDF too. So if I want to find My Girl, you'll see it says girl and it pulls up. Maybe I should have refined there's a lot of songs with Uptown Girl. Okay. My Girl. So you see it brings me right to the page there. All right. So that comes in handy. And then someone went through the trouble of not only doing that, but then they said, well, let's give another list of the same song titles. But this time, let's do it this way. It's the exact same thing, but done differently. It lists all of the rhythm styles alphabetically. So don't look at it here. These are all the rhythms that are in the instrument alphabetically. Now, personally, I don't use this one that much, okay? This gives you a list of every rhythm that the songs are utilizing, should I say. Let me go back. All right? So if you like this guitar, 60s guitar rock, it's giving you a few of the songs that use that style, because they're not going to use every single different rhythm. And then the original one, which really you don't need because you already have it built into the instrument, by song order, song set list, by style, by song order. Let's see, where is it? Category. This one here, to me, it's almost, what's the point of having it in a sense? Because when you select ballroom category, for example, on your keyboard, it's going to give you all of these song titles. You're going to see what we've been watching on the screen. You kind of already have this in the instrument. My favorite one is the one by song title, because then you can do a search alphabetically for a song title, and then it tells you the name of the style. Okay? So I'm going to post those up again. If you haven't gotten them, I'm going to put them up on our Patreon. In fact, maybe tonight or tomorrow I'll have that up there before I even put the video up. Okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to play a couple little songettes for you. And I'm going to tell you what I used to get it. So write this down. All right? Play a couple little fun songs that I like here. How about, oh, you know what? How about this? Some of you might like country. I'm going to go to the country playlist, and on the country playlist, there's a song by a musician that your parents may have told you about. Let's see. It's Folsom Prison Blues, right? Is that Folsom Prison Blues?
That's it.
All right, I want to make sure I have the right song in my head. All right, so I used, this is from the playlist, from the country playlist, which gives me fast country blues. And what I'm going to do is, for me, I'm going to put the screen up so I can see what I got here. 60s chicken pick. That's what they... It does sound like a chicken. Okay, sorry, enough blabbing. Do another playlist one here for you. How about, oh, you know, I kind of like playing this one here. I'm going to go to the R&B playlist, and there is a song called Night Train. So I'm just going to go to the Night Train, and then what I'm going to do after I select it, I'll tell you the style that I'm using. I'm going to push the registration 2 together and then put registration bank info. So the style that it's using is called Blues Shuffle Band, all right, which is found on, if you want to find it yourself, it's under the R&B button as well. And I'm going to push my registration bank info so I see what sounds I have. Let's see. It's like a rock grand piano. I got a big band trumpet, a jazz guitar amp, and a sax session, and an organ. So I know what sounds I'm already going to use and which presets I'm going to avoid. So here we go. All right, well, that was fun. Oh my gosh. Oh, I just discovered something else in there. And I'll leave you with this. So, by the way, when I was playing and I hit one of the presets, I'll just tell you this and then we'll call it a night. All right. So I pulled up the screen like I was telling you, and I was interested in number 5, as you can see, because it had the classic bar jazz, JS. I'm assuming it was like a jazz organ anyway. But when I went from number 1 or 2, listen to the style. Okay. Now watch what happens when I go to number 5 to the band. Okay, well that's cool. It kind of worked for this purpose, but I didn't want to stay doing that the whole time that I wanted to use it. So when I was playing, while I was playing that, when I got done with it, I just reached over and hit my main variation. I went to C, and then went to, and it kept the sound that I was using. But here's something else I discovered, which is pretty cool. It's probably just a little thing, but I noticed that I was just curious. So I'm on the voice. It's telling me what's set up and what have you. If you touch the style, it'll tell you. If you look in the screen there, it'll tell you how that style is all set up. You see it says stop tempo, what have you. But you can see what fill-in it's doing, and it'll see which variation it's doing too. Obviously the tempo. So just anything else that's out there that's always going to help is going to be useful. Okay, well, I'm tired now. I've exhausted all my mental power and prowess for today. So I hope you got at least one thing today, maybe 2, maybe 3. I know I did some basic stuff. I did some recap stuff today. I'll get this. A lot of times what happens is when I get these videos, I go back and edit parts like, okay, I talked too much there. I cut that out. So that's why it takes me a little time to get these things posted. But what I will do by Saturday is I'll have the 2 different playlists plus the one that I shared that for some of my song suggestions that I did. Anything that's going to get you using the instrument or finding more styles to use, that's going to be very helpful. Okay? So with that said, stay safe. Keep your eye out on the emails. There might be some weird schedule changes coming up next month. There's going to be a lot of different things happening. So this class may happen next week. It may not. Just be on the lookout so you know what to expect. Every Sunday or Monday, by the way, when I send out the weekly virtual classes and events email, I usually list what's happening within a 7-day period. So look through that, because sometimes, like one class that I normally do on Wednesday, I put it in there, but I put next week's date on there. And some people were calling and asking me, where's the Zoom link? I miss it, or I didn't see it, or whatever. And so just make sure you be on the lookout for those emails, okay? Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the class today. Go out and have some fun with that, and we'll see you real soon. Stay safe. Keep playing music every day, and mwah, everybody.